Calvin Kattar is coming off of a massive, massive unanimous decision victory against Giga Chikadze, a fight that a lot of people picked against him. I picked against him. I don't remember if you did or not, but I know that that was the hill that he had to overcome to be able to truly remind the world that, hey, just because you got beat up by Max Holloway doesn't mean you're not still a bona fide top 2, 3, 4 fighter in the featherweight division. Now, Josh Emmett, a dude who has been more or less plagued by injuries in his career, a little bit older, right? He's 37 years old. I mean, Kattar's 34, but 37 years old, coming off of a big win against Dan Ige. And AJ, brother, I mean, the thing about the win is that unfortunately, it doesn't age as well these days. Even though Dan Ige is a hell of a fighter, man, he always comes to bring it, always comes to give a great fight. Lots of losses as of late, man. So it's like, well, when Kattar has a win over Ige, Emmett has a win over Ige, this guy, that guy, the other guy has a win. How memorable is it? So, I mean, listen, you have this tail of the tape. The tail of the tape is that Josh Emmett has a nuclear bomb in his right hand that he's ready to implode on you at any time. And Calvin Kattar, this dude has unmatched cardio and can put a pace on you for 5 rounds and has stones of hand and has elbows, knees, the whole nine. Do you look at it like that, or do you look at it in a simpler term and say this is striker versus wrestler? How are you looking at it?
I mean, you can look at it as easy as striker versus wrestler. Yeah, I could see how a lot of people are going to frame it that way, but they're just sleeping on Josh Emmett because this dude, like you said, Derek, has absolute power in the right hand. Sure, he can go to the ground. Sure, he's probably going to be looking to wrestle, and that's strictly because Calvin Kattar, this dude's technique, the ones and twos, man, the technique in his boxing hands are so crisp that at Josh Emmett, he's going to need something else to get around that, man. But you don't mistake Josh Emmett for strictly just a wrestler, because this dude will pop you 1, 2, hit you in the body, and then come up top, like you said, with that big bomb of a right hand, drop you, man. You'll be seeing stars if you sleep on Josh Emmett. So I also, in my last one, I did pick against Calvin Kattar, just to clarify as well. I was looking for the Giga, the Giga. We were riding the Giga hype, but Calvin Kattar proved to be the real deal, man. I think this is another one of those fights that's going to solidify Calvin Kattar as the fighter he is. Going forward, he's going to gain a lot of fans. And I mean, it's weird saying that Josh Emmett is the old guy, because you do feel that. You kind of feel like, oh man, he's been in here forever, but he's only a couple years older. So I think it just proves how much media attention Calvin Kattar has versus a lot of people sleeping on Josh Emmett, that they just forget, this dude, he still is a very much a bona fide savage, and he can get the fight done in multitude of ways.
Yeah, I agree, man. And I think an interesting stat to take note on is that Josh Emmett and Calvin Kattar have pretty comparable UFC records. I mean, 23-5 MMA record for Kattar, 17-2 for Emmett. But like I said, Emmett, he has been plagued by injuries. But if you look at the UFC record, 7-3 for Kattar, 8-2 for Emmett. So I mean, you're pretty much, par on par right there. But here's a stat that we need to take note of, AJ. Both of these fighters have fought Dan Ige. Both of these fighters have fought Jeremy Stephens in their last 5. That's very important. So Dan Ige, both of them, you get a decision win. Right on. Cool. Now let's talk about Jeremy Stephens. Calvin Kattar, if you remember, had a vicious elbow KO on Jeremy Stephens, put him out of his misery early, man. That was very impressive. On the flip side, Jeremy Stephens kind of did that to Josh Emmett, man. Gave him some elbows and got him out of there. So given that that's one of their similar opponents in their last 5 and there was drastically opposite outcomes, that's something that we need to factor in, especially given how Calvin Kattar has massive elbows implemented into his game plan. Once he gets close to you, you get in those clinch situations, he's dropping elbows off the break. He's hitting you with the jab, switching stances as he's walking up on you, but he's always ready to drop that elbow on you, brother. So, I mean, how does that factor into this fight? Do you think Josh Emmett's going to play it super reserved because he knows that, or you got to risk it to get the biscuit? How do you see it?
I think you have to risk it to get the biscuit, especially if you're looking to get on the inside of Calvin Kattar. And that's where the danger comes in, man. You're up in that clinch. You don't necessarily get to the hips. You kind of stay a little high, stay in that clinch game. Next thing you know, you're eating a couple elbows. So very dangerous for Josh Emmett. But to your point, Derek, Emmett fought Stephens in 2018, where Calvin Kattar had a little bit more time for Jeremy Stephens to fight a little bit more opponents. Comes in, fights him in 2020. Not saying 2 years is the most massive of difference, but in Jeremy Stephens' case, if I had to bet, I could say he probably fought like 5-6 times. That dude's an absolute savage. So it does come into play, but I think the elbow wouldn't be as worrisome to me. unless you're getting up in that clinch. If you're in that clinch, obviously all day I was going to be crazy, but I just be worried about those uppercuts, man. For when you are getting on the inside, his hands are lightning fast of Calvin Kattar. So you really got to pay attention. If you're scared about those uppercuts, then you also need to be scared about the elbows coming over the top in that clinch as well, too.
I agree. And another aspect of Josh Emmett's game that I think is very effective, that a lot of people kind of, I don't know, they sleep on him a little bit, is his wrestling, man. He's a great wrestler. Like, I said you could look at his striker versus wrestler, but a lot of people, if you look at the UFC stats, man, he maybe has 1-2 takedowns a fight, you know what I mean, every couple of fights. It's not like this is his go-to, I'm just going to, Movsar Evil you and just take you down. But if you do go back to a fight against Scott Holtzman, man, I think he had 8 takedowns in that fight, and it was very aggressive. And I was like, can he do that to Calvin Kattar? But then you got to think about it, bro. If you do that to Kattar is going to make you work for anything that you do in the grappling, right? He's going to be working to get to his feet, elbows off the back, all that good stuff. So it makes me wonder if this stat is going to play into how these two are going to initiate their game plans, right? So check it out. Josh Emmett, his last 5-round fight was in 2014 versus a fighter named Brandon Ricchetti. It was a technical decision to win, and that was at WFC 12, brother, not even in the UFC. But for Calvin Kattar, his last 3 fights have all been 5-rounders, bro. And we've had 3 decisions, so he's gone the distance for each one of those fights. So if Josh Emmett says, I'm going to initiate these wrestling exchanges, if Josh Emmett says, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to put you on your butt and keep you there, exert a lot of energy in rounds 2 and 3 or 1, 2, and 3, how are you going to hold up comes around 4 and 5? Because Calvin Kattar, even against Giga Chikadze, man, he put that pace on him, something we've never seen. He just literally stayed in his face the whole time. And while I think that's problematic because you can't do that to Emmett, you're going to walk into a takedown doing that all fight, right? But if you keep getting back up to your feet, maybe you could wear him out. And then rounds 4 and 5, those championship rounds, you really put it on him. Am I making too much of that, or do you think that could be a real factor?
No, I see what you're coming from, because usually it's the wrestler who doesn't mind getting the takedowns, putting the people in their butt, getting them down. Sure, it does take it takes a toll when they stand back up. So if Calvin Kattar can get that done, that's going to be a thing to watch for in the fight. But I don't know. In my mind, I don't remember Calvin Kattar having a bunch of get up, having a bunch of stand up. I know he does get scrappy on the bottom, but we also haven't seen him been held down in a long time. I'm looking over a fight and where he was held down for a long time. Maybe the Moicano lost, but I don't remember it off the top of my head. Derek, do you know a fight in which he was held down like that? Or is this something Josh Emmett is able to exploit because it hasn't been done to him yet?
Well, I do remember there was I think maybe a point in the Zabit fight where he got held down a little bit, you know what I mean? But Zabit tried to get the fight back up to the feet. I guess the whole point right here, brothers, if you really take a look at it, I mean, Calvin Kattar has been taken down in his UFC career. He's been taken down twice. So, I mean, shit, good luck on that, right? Ultimately, that's what we're saying. Good luck. You've been taken down twice in your entire UFC career. Josh Emmett, let's see what you got. Because Calvin Kattar, the thing that people don't understand about him as well is he's not just a striker, bro. He has really good wrestling. And that's the thing. He kind of put a little bit on display against Giga Chikadze. But either way, man. So, like I said, it's a little more complicated than wrestler versus striker. But I do think that the favor is the advantage should truly go to Calvin Kattar in this fight. We know that if he could stay away from that right hand of Josh Emmett, you're in a pretty good spot because Calvin Kattar's his offense is more of an overwhelming type of offense. Josh Emmett is one hit, crack you, put you down. I mean, when he had his best spots against Dan Ige in his last fight, it's after he rocked him, after he dropped him, and then he was able to capitalize. But let's talk props here, brother. I mean, you have Team Alpha Male in Emmett, and then you got New England Cartel and Kattar. And I think that even though New England Cartel with the Rob Fonts of the world and things like that have been a little discounted as of late, still think that there's a lot of value in this camp, bro. So if we're looking at a Calvin Kattar TKO, we're looking at plus 190. Clearly, he's a minus 230 money line favorite with the plus 190 comeback for Josh Emmett. So you're getting those plus dog numbers on a TKO for Calvin Kattar. Is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? No, Emmett's only been finished once in his entire career, brother, and that's by a knockout. Plus 2,000 for submission and plus 130 for decision. So if anything, I think that decision prop could play in hand. Josh Emmett has a great chin. But let's talk about Josh Emmett, man. Plus 475 for a decision prop for him and plus 400 for a TKO prop. So clearly, odds makers really like Kattar in this spot. I really like Kattar in this spot. It seems like you really like Kattar in this spot. But if we're picking a prop versus the money line, what are we picking?
I think that Calvin Kattar versus decision, that, what'd you say, plus 130?
Plus 130.
Plus 130. That's not bad, man, because that's what I was going for. Decision. I agree. Josh Emmett, he's got a chin.
Yeah.
He's durable. He's going to be that great wrestler. He gets in trouble. He's going to shoot. So I think he can outlast, especially 5 rounds. He might get tired, but I think he can last through it. That decision makes a lot of sense to me. If you're a Josh Emmett fan, what was that TKO plus 4?
Plus 400, brother. Plus 400.
Woo! Steep hill right there, but he does have the power. So if you're a Josh Emmett fan, there's some value there. I don't know if I'm willing to put it on it, but I like the Calvin Kattar decision. What about you, Derek?
Well, I will know Calvin Kattar has never been knocked out in his career. He's only been submitted once. And, I mean, Max Holloway came the closest to actually finishing Calvin Kattar. But for Josh Emmett, man, like I said, it's interesting because if Calvin Kattar hurts Emmett, Emmett has the wrestling abilities to be able to save the day and, at least get to that scramble to where you can, have a little lifeline left. Can Calvin Kattar do the same? If he gets hurt, is he going to pull guard? Is he going to try to wrestle? What can he do? And does Josh Emmett have the ability to follow up to really finish the job? I'm really not sure on both parts, but I do like a Calvin Kattar decision more than I like a TKO. I really respect Josh Emmett, and I think he's a great fighter, man. So looks like we'll rock with the decision on both ends, and the over clearly is 4.5 rounds. So we'll take the over on that one, brother. And just so you know, the over odds, brother, it's minus 145 for the over, plus 115 for the under on that one. So the odds makers like the over on that one too. So all right, that is your main event: Calvin Kattar versus Josh Emmett. Man, that's gonna be a fun one, bro. This is legit gonna be banger. I think that we're gonna see violence, lots of blood, the whole nine right there.